The family of Nikhil Gupta, an Indian national accused of plotting to assassinate US-based Sikh separatist Gurpatwant Singh Pannun and currently detained in the Czech Republic, has moved to Supreme Court seeking the Government of India's intervention to secure his release. The US Department of Justice had accused Gupta of planning the assassination plot of Pannun on the behest of an Indian government employee. In a habeas corpus petition filed in the Supreme Court, Gupta's family has now said that he is aggrieved by the blatant negligence and omission by the Indian embassy officials to handle his case with due care and caution. The family in the petition claimed that they received a cold response from the Indian embassy officials in the Czech Republic. This, claims Gupta, happened when his lawyers approached the authorities for support in the extradition proceedings initiated against him at the behest of the US administration. Gupta, who is facing extradition, is currently lodged in a prison in Prague where he alleged he was being kept in illegal detention. He has been under duress to confess to the allegations, said the petition filed in the Supreme Court of India, which also disclosed that a lower court in Prague has given a green signal to Gupta's extradition. Despite representation, emails, letters and phone calls to both the Ministry of External Affairs and the Indian Embassy in Prague, there has been no action or involvement by the latter, claims the petition. According to it, Gupta is facing numerous procedural violations of basic human rights and a threat to his fundamental rights. The petition adds that he has been kept in solitary confinement for the past 100 days on the pretext that he is suffering from an infectious disease and forced to eat non-vegetarian food including pork, which is in breach of his religious sentiments. A bench led by Justice Sanjeev Khanna Friday adjourned the hearing of Gupta's petition to 4th of January. The Supreme Court on Friday told the family to approach a court in Czech Republic for relief over claims of his religious and human rights were violated. The court refused immediate relief and told the petitioner to file a copy with the government before setting the next date for 4th of January. So what does this petition say? According to the petition, Gupta was allegedly picked up from Prague airport on 30th June soon after he got the immigration clearance. It adds that he was visiting Prague for tourism and to explore business opportunities. The men who detained him at the airport initially did not reveal their identity, the petition said, adding that they forced him to sit in an SUV in which two men were already present and that he was then forced to unlock his phone. He picked him up on the basis of an indictment which was submitted in the US Justice Department accusing him of murder conspiracy charges. Gupta's petition alleged that he was handed over to the Czech police 3 hours after he was illegally detained by the unidentified individuals, and at the time he was not allowed to speak to his family or give consular access. The police or the local authorities in Prague never even conveyed that he has been arrested to the Indian embassy, the petition has said. An official from the Indian embassy visited Gupta in jail 20 days after he was imprisoned. During that time, his family kept writing emails to the Ministry of External Affairs and the Indian Embassy in Prague but got no response. His repeated request to connect with the family or the Indian Embassy was shot down by the jail authorities, the petition says. Finally, on 21st July on his petition, the High Court in Prague permitted him to make a phone call to his family. However, in the first week of August, he was again denied permission with the jail authorities saying that the service provider who facilitates international calling for inmates had stopped providing services for calls to Indians. The defense attorney who was provided to him by the Czech authorities allegedly pressured him to give his consent for extradition. According to the petition, the allegation mentioned in the indictment based on which he was detained is against one Nick, which is not Gupta's name. Hence, the petition said it was a case of mistaken identity. There is another interesting aspect to this story. The petition also comes attached with some documents that show that Nikhil Gupta was first indicted by a grand jury in Southern District of New York on 13th of June, and in that indictment, the alleged involvement of an Indian government employee in the assassination plot was not mentioned at all. An indictment is a formal accusation of charging document issued by the grand jury, which is part of judicial branch of the US government. The earlier indictment lays out the alleged conspiracy by Gupta, who directed one confidential informant to carry out the murder of a lawyer who lives in New York. It, however, does not mention the role of an Indian government employee in this alleged conspiracy. According to the superseding indictment filed in New York District Court on 29th November, it is alleged that Gupta, who is involved in international narcotics and weapons trafficking, was recruited by an Indian government employee who is said to be responsible for intelligence and has been referred to as CC1 to carry out the assassination in New York. US prosecutors have claimed that Gupta subsequently started looking for people to carry out the task and then allegedly contacted an individual whom he believed to be a criminal associate but was actually a confidential source working with the Drug Enforcement Administration, that is the DEA. This is the same person referred to as confidential informant in the superseding indictment who put Gupta in touch with the hitman who could be given a contract to kill Pannun. This hitman, in fact, was an undercover US law enforcement officer. The indictment says that after Gupta made a team and conveyed the same to the Indian official, a deal to pay $100,000 to the hitman was struck. According to an affidavit filed in support of request for extradition by a special agent of the Drug Enforcement, which is part of the petition, Gupta on 19 June communicated the urgency to carry out the killing to the confidential informant. The document says, and I quote, on 19 June, when CI told Gupta that he was concerned that the victim may be around innocent bystanders, Gupta told the CI to kill everyone, to let them go to heaven. According to the affidavit, Gupta also told the informant that it was just first of the 4 jobs and that he needed to push the hitman to do the job in 11 days. According to the document, Gupta had been in touch with the confidential informant since 2016, with whom he repeatedly discussed firearms and narcotic deals but never did any transaction. The document says that Gupta thought that the informant was a cocaine supplier from Colombia. Giving details on how the plot was planned, the document says that it was on 30th May, while discussing firearms and narcotics deal, that Gupta asked this CI if he knew someone to carry out the murder of a lawyer who lives in New York. Gupta then provided CA with the victim's name and explained that he would pay $100,000 for the murder, for then CI agreed to facilitate his meeting, the document says. This is when the CI introduced Gupta to an undercover law enforcement officer who is the undercover agent as his contact in New York who would be coordinating with the individual tasked for committing the murder, the document says. On 9 June, Gupta arranged for money courier to pay the undercover agent. An advance of $15,000 was made for the murder. It was on 13 June he was charged in an indictment for the murder for hire scheme, and on the same day the warrant for his arrest was issued. Then on 19th of June, a provisional arrest request was made by the Ministry of Justice of Czech Republic, and on 30th June, Czech authorities arrested Gupta. The document also says that Gupta visited the US twice, once in December 2016 and once in June 2017. This is a developing story. Please stay tuned at theprint.in for more details. Thank you for watching.